back at it again with another video. And I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm tired of having this conversation. I'm tired of arguing with people about this. I'm honestly sick of it. I'm tired. I'm jaded. It's just I am annoyed. Very annoyed. And I've been annoyed for a very long time, with the PlayStation fan base about this. And the naysayers. I've been arguing about this since last generation, since about the middle of last generation, because that's when I started to notice that it was a problem. That it was an issue that wasn't being addressed, and when it was even brought up, the PlayStation fan base just tried to quiet, shut up, don't say nothing, So, news came out today that during a Sony Q3 earnings call, Jim Ryan specifically, I believe, announced that PlayStation plans to launch 10 live service games by March 2026, and that's in 4 years, right? Now, this may seem redundant, because you would assume everybody actually knows the definition of a live service game, but based on the back and forths I've had with people on Twitter, you can't even assume that. So just to read the definition real quick, in the video game industry, games as a service, or GAAS, gas, I guess some people may say it if they're speaking, represents providing video games or game content on a continuing revenue model similar to software as a service. Games as a service are ways to monetize video games either after their initial sale or to support a free-to-play model, because some people actually believe games as a service and free-to-play are one and the same. That's not necessarily true. There are games that are games as a service, and you have to pay for them. There is an initial upfront cost. Some games that you pay for upfront, sometimes like they'll make the games free-to-play, at a certain point in the future, but that's not necessarily the case. They're not one and the same. Games released under the games as a service model typically receive a long or indefinite stream of monetized new content over time to encourage players to continue paying to support the game. This often leads to games that work under the games as a service model, also called living games, live games, or live service games, since they continually change with these updates. So the thing is, people need to realize the real difference, right, between a traditional multiplayer game, right, and a games as a service is not that big. The difference is really not that big. The difference is a traditional multiplayer game most likely will not continue to receive updates or content past a certain point, right? It's not meant to have super longevity. The model is not set up for it to have long legs or a super long lifespan set up with content. Games can survive and have a long life without the continuing content, but that's the real difference. We're going to set this game up so that the player supports it long term and the developer supports it long term. That's the real difference. A traditional multiplayer game is just going to be a static multiplayer game, right? How you get it is, for the most part, how it's going to say. Games as a service will evolve. That's the real difference. That's the real difference, and that's important that people know that, because some people like to believe that games as a service is like inherently evil, inherently bad, when that's not the case. That is far from the truth. Now, you can make the case that how games as a service have been implemented in the past has been less than admirable, less than savory to the. gamer, but there are examples of it being done right. Now, even though I may not be a fan of these games that have done it right, it has nothing to do with it being a games as a service model. It's, for me, it's due to the genre or the play style or the gameplay of the game. Some games that have done it right, hey, y'all know I hate the game. As far as you ask anybody, Destiny did the games as a service model right. They can actually continue to update and support that game. Fortnite, don't like Fortnite. Has nothing to do with me not liking Fortnite has nothing to do with it being a games as a service. I just don't like the gameplay. I don't like the gameplay of Destiny. Same thing with games like Apex, Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves obviously has a rough start. I don't like the game. Once again, it's about the genre. It's the gameplay.
That's a good one.
So there are examples of it being done right. Even Warzone, even Warzone, because a lot of people like to assume that, you know, part of a games as a service means it's going to be incomplete. I mean, technically, a games as a service has to be incomplete because if you think of it as complete as this is the whole thing that you're ever going to get, inherently it has to be incomplete because games as a service continues to provide content over time. So it can never really be complete. If you want to say like it has like all the relevant and the structure, all the things that you expect from a multiplayer game up front. That's different. I get that, right? And there are once again examples of games that have all the things that.
Damn. Hate this fucking board.
Should bare minimum be there at launch. There's examples of games as a service that have had that. I named some of them, right? But as far as content goes, it will never be complete necessarily because it's this perpetual cycle of more content, which is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Once again, it's all about how you implement these things, right? Because microtransactions and games as a service, they tie into one another, right? They're pretty much part of a games as a service model. Microtransactions are not inherently bad. There are still people having this discussion, still calling microtransactions evil. That is not the case. Microtransactions are not bad. How they are implemented decides if they are good or bad. Mainly, if it's just cosmetic, then that's fine. And as long as the cosmetic prices are not egregious, then it's fine. These things are not a problem, right?
Goddamn car is fucked up. I gotta fix this car. I don't know what's on this goddamn off-road, man. It's still a monster now. Suspension is too hard. Kill Tim real quick.
So, and the thing is, like, multiplayer and games as a service are not necessarily this. They're obviously not the same thing. I explained the difference, but games in the future are more likely to mostly be games as a service, right? Because it's really just an evolution of multiplayer games. It's like, okay, why have a multiplayer game that stays static, right? That after maybe 2 years we stop supporting it. No, because it's a pro bono thing. Both the player and the developer benefit. Only the developer. There are situations where it's egregious. Nobody's denying that. But games as a service benefit both the player and the developer, right? So if you can have a game that you love that continually gets support year after year after year, rather than a game that's static, that stays the same in year 1 and year 2, and then it stops getting any support after that. What is the benefit of that? There is no benefit. So, and like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the current games as a service games because of the genre. I don't care about it being games as a service necessarily. Because this is why I am for PlayStation doing this. If you're taking PlayStation IPs and you're making it a games as a service,
I'm making this quick video because it has been 1 month since joining the Cashflow 101 system, and so what I wanted to do is make this video to show you the results that I've gotten in my first month joining the system. So you see here, there's tons of packages. I don't know exactly how many. Got a calculator right here. We're going to calculate the running total, and I'm just going to show you what kind of result that I've gotten since joining this system. Now guys, the craziest part about all of this is that the only thing that I did was plug into the system, follow the instructions, and then literally get this.
I'm all for that because I like the gameplay of those games, and if you translate those, for example, if you made SOCOM And these are some games, like, we know Twisted Metal's in development. London Studios is making a multiplayer game. These could be some of the games that Jim Ryan was referring to that are gonna that is included in the 10 live service games that are going to be out by March 2026. PlayStation right now has like 5 multiplayer games in development. These could or could not be part of that list. These could all be what he's referring to by the games as a service games, right? It could be Twisted Metal. Could be the game London, the multiplayer game London Studios is working on. Factions 2 could be games as a service. That AAA game by Deviation Studios, that's going to be a multiplayer. That could be it. Fire Sprite, the multiplayer game Fire Sprite is working on. That could be a part of it. Bungie's new IP, that could be a part of it. So people are making it seem like they're about to like rush out and like throw these things out there just to throw them out, like rush content. Like, bro, they're already in development. It's likely that these are already a part of it. And like I was saying, if you take these PlayStation games that I already like and just make it into a games as a service, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. SOCOM, games as a service, I'm for it. Killzone, Resistance, Twisted Metal, like I said, I already like these games. I already like them. Tested, tried, and true. I like the gameplay of them. So if you were to keep generally that's
what it is about both of us, but we really enjoy extremes. Perhaps it's that explorer gene in us, or maybe that when everyone else is ducking for cover or leaving for the wet season, Africa reveals itself more fully. It's as if, because we share these harsh seasons together, us and them, at a time when we are both vulnerable, we feel somehow accepted, like we've been through something tough together.
And as we follow big cats day and night through the wet season, we see another side of them, but also another side of each other as well. Derek and I have lived like this for 40 years, and I mean literally side by side. We recently went through what could have been a miserable 90 days of steady rain and heavy storms. One that ripped the roof off our tent, leaving everything we own in the world ruined or soaked. But bad conditions bring out the best in us, and we always tackle these small crises with a lot of humor. Perhaps I should have calculated the fall of the collected water a little better.
Perhaps I saw that coming and maybe should have mentioned it, but that would have spoiled the surprise. At times like this, I know my place. To live like this, you must be equipped with sharp wits and the ability to laugh at yourself.
Camp prepared, roughly, and with a sunny day at last, welcomed by everyone, even our resident baboon neighbors, we pieced our lives together to analyze data and to risk starting up drenched computers.
It's like we've been preparing for a court case. Beverly's images, besides being great fine art, are visual milestones for us as we try to build the argument on behalf of big cats about why they should be allowed to exist.
They're clearly ferocious, dangerous killers. Most people on the planet have some knowledge of a lion, at least the Lion King version. Others live in total fear of lions. But in many ways, that is the problem. No one can imagine that they might just disappear.
Over 1 billion people have watched our films. Millions have seen the books and articles in dozens of languages. And yet at times we feel as though we've failed. Those chilling numbers just don't lie. So perhaps we have failed. So far. And that is what drives us each day. To wake and start a new chapter, to find a new story that people can fall in love with. And perhaps sanity will prevail. The 95% declines in our lifetimes are devastating for both of us to bear witness to, and not try to do something about. So we focus on these wild places and find the ambassadors, both young and old. Through them, we hope to convince you and everyone that there are solid arguments for coexistence, emotionally, rationally, ecologically, even spiritually, all by sharing their beauty with the world.
To get a full picture, we compare line prides across Africa, so it's time for us to be nomadic again.
We're going to the Lost World! Your breath, dude. You gotta brush more.
Buck Wild at your service. Now streaming.
Where are those two?
If we don't find them, I'm gonna kill them. Ice Age is back.
Hang on, Crash Eddie!
It's time to get Buck Wild.
Destiny! Oh, wait! Is the team getting back together again?
You stay out of it, you.
You sense some tension between them? Maybe a little.
Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. Rated PG only on Disney+.
My name is Lolly, and I'm a franchisee with Domino's. I started working part-time at 17 and worked my way up to owning and operating 2 stores by 27. 95% of our franchisees started out as delivery drivers or store employees, and you could too. Apply to your local Domino's today.
Nicorette knows quitting smoking is freaking hard. You get advice like, just stop. Go for a run. Go for 10 runs. Run a marathon. Instead, start small with Nicorette, which can lead to something big. Start stopping with Nicorette.
As a DJ, I know all about customization. That's why I love
Make
Liberty
it into,
Mutual.
you know, and whatever they decide to do with these IPs, we obviously don't know if they're going to bring them back. But if they do, and you make it into a games as a service, I'm all for that. Why wouldn't I be? I liked it as a multiplayer game. Now it's just a multiplayer game that they have a model that they will continually support it. I see no problem with that. I see no problem with that. Now, when it comes to the PlayStation fan base and the naysayers, it's like, why are y'all so afraid? I just don't understand it. Like, why are y'all so afraid when y'all see PlayStation trying something new, something maybe others have failed at, something that they have failed at? Why are y'all so afraid and so against it? Like, it's sickening how y'all act. It's sickening. When it comes to, if it's anything other than PlayStation making single-player driven games, they just shit on it. They just put PlayStation in this box of making single-player games, and y'all don't want them to do nothing the fuck else. Nothing. No, PlayStation can't do nothing else. Don't expand, don't grow, don't evolve, don't do anything else. Make single-player games for the rest of your existence, and that's all I want from you. Really? This is how y'all think? You don't think that's absolutely bizarre for a company that provides you a service and content to not do anything else and not try anything else ever? Like, what type of mindset is that? Like, listen, I'm not saying that the games as a service that they make, all of them are going to be absolutely successful. Do I believe some of them will be? Some will be more, and there's different levels to success, of course, right? Do I think, and that's the thing, like, people got to understand, Call of Duty is not the barometer for success. Yes, Call of Duty is immensely successful, but you got to realize Call of Duty is an outlier. Fortnite is an anomaly. That's not how you, on average, rate success. That's not it. You're not going to reach that. You're not going to reach that because most don't. So you can't be like, oh, it didn't it's not as popular as Call of Duty. It's a failure. It sucks. It's people in the sport. No, that's not how you do it. That's not how you look at it. It's so weird to me. Like, yo, with the PlayStation fan base, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're talking about putting co-op in a game, no, we don't want that. Multiplayer, no, we don't want that. Games as a service, no, they don't want nothing. Nothing. They're just in this safe little comfortable box, and y'all are terrified, just horrified, just like fear in your eyes about to cry, just frightened of PlayStation potentially trying to do anything else. It's like almost more than y'all are afraid for PlayStation to fail. It's like y'all are afraid for PlayStation to succeed. That's what it really feels like to me. Because listen, even if like these, in the circumstance, and I don't believe this is going to happen, if every one of these games as a service games failed, I would still be happy that PlayStation at least tried. I would still be happy that they attempted something that they usually don't. I would still be happy that they gave the actual full effort to offer something and not just rely
Paradise
on it.
Always eats a hole in our hearts. Leaving Duba, as difficult as it is to work here, becomes harder and harder each time. Being in the air gives us perspective and highlights just how lucky we are to live here. The Okavango has to be one of the world's most precious, pristine outposts. It is home to some of the best big cat populations and a core group to build out from as we try to recover these species.
It is also the place where we once had the most extraordinary scene we have ever filmed. It was the first big kill by a leopard we had come to know well. We had followed her since she was 8 days old. What she did was a total surprise. As she pulled her kill up into the tree, something moved. A 1-day-old baby baboon. Lachedema, this little leopard, hadn't noticed at first, but when it fell down, we got ready to film a short, sad moment. But she surprised us. She didn't try to kill the baby.
Then, as soon as there was a threat, she rescued it and took it to higher, safer branches.
For 4 hours, well into the night, she took care of the baby. A little playful at times and a little rough, but careful and with a soft mouth, moving it out of harm's way in exactly the same way she would years later with her own cubs.
She seemed to be caught up in a dilemma between a desire to nurture and to play, suppressing her most natural instinct as a predator.
What changed us that day was the realization that our own broad stroke conservation, while concentrating on the population and big cat policies, was ignoring a vital fact. Each individual cat, like Lachedema, has a completely different personality and value. There are 50,000 Lachedemas out there, each with its life in our hands.
Eventually, she and the baby baboon snuggled up against the cold winter night and went to sleep together.
Lachedema turned us from filmmakers and conservationists into advocates for the big cats. So we launched our Big Cat Initiative, and that set us in motion on a new odyssey and quest to be more active in saving big cats.
There is a point as you fly south where this lush green waterway is replaced by desert and the Kalahari sands. This is the edge. It's been a journey filled with purpose, trying to decode big cats and yet fight for their existence. We go to extreme places to find them. This is the most exciting and meaningful life we could have ever imagined for ourselves. A life dedicated to the study of big cats, living past and working to secure their future. And we do it because we understand that Africa, without glimpses of lions moving through the blonde winter grass to evoke that sense of wildness, that freedom we all desire, that purity of nature, soft and hard, is just empty space on the map. That is why we do what we can to protect them.
And everybody else to do it, because when people, it's funny, people only apply this when they want it to. When PlayStation does something, it's different than how it is in the rest of the industry. But when it comes to multiplayer games and games as a service, co-op, that's when people act like PlayStation are just these incapable, just moronic bunch of idiots, like they don't know what they're doing. Right? PlayStation. I said this before, right? They praise PlayStation. Oh, they're the best publisher. They have the best talent. They have the best.
We knew that we had to go in search of the real Africa. Something beyond. Something out there.
The best.